The morning light slanted through the dusty window of Le Mood, illuminating a whirlwind of activity. Remy Roux, his chef's whites dusted with flour, barked orders at a flurry of sous chefs. Pans clattered, knives sang against cutting boards, and the tempting aroma of caramelized onions and sizzling bacon filled the air. Yet, despite the symphony of kitchen sounds, a tense silence hung around Remy himself. He moved with practiced ease, his movements a well-rehearsed dance around the sizzling stove. But beneath his practiced calm, a storm brewed. Today was no ordinary day. Tonight, Le Mood wouldn't just be serving food, it would be serving emotions. Each dish on the menu promised to evoke a feeling, a memory, a yearning. And Remy, their charismatic chef, was responsible for turning these promises into culinary epiphanies. He glanced at the clock on the wall, its red numerals glaring accusingly back. Time was ticking. He had meticulously sourced the finest ingredients, crafted the perfect base, but there was one crucial element missing. The secret ingredient, the one that would elevate his stew from a comforting familiar to something truly transformative, was yet to be added. And the weight of that decision pressed heavily on his shoulders. Remy Roux, the charismatic chef of Le Mood, stood at the stove, his face flushed and his heart racing. The scent of garlic and thyme filled the air as he stirred a bubbling pot of stew, his movements precise and elegant. But as he listened to the diners' laughter and clinking cutlery, Remy couldn't shake the feeling of unease. He glanced at the clock, frowning. They were running out of time. The secret ingredient, the one that would elevate the stew from a mere comfort food to an emotional revelation, would have to be added soon. Esme Flores, the sharp-tongued food critic, surveyed the bistro with a critical eye. The dim lighting, the quaint wooden tables, and the eclectic mix of art on the walls created an atmosphere that was both inviting and intriguing. She glanced at the menu, her brow furrowed. Emotional culinary experience, it read. Your mood will be their muse. Curiosity getting the better of her, she decided to give Le Mood a try. Grandma Gigi, Remy's wise and loving grandmother, sat at a table near the window, watching her grandson with a smile. She remembered the first time Remy had shown an interest in cooking, when he was just a boy. She had taught him everything she knew, and over the years, his talent had only grown. She could see the strain in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, but she also knew that it was what made his food so special. A framed photograph perched precariously on the stainless steel counter beside him. It depicted a younger Remy, barely taller than the counter itself, his face dusted with flour as he stirred a pot, his eyes wide with wonder. Beside him, a woman with kind eyes and laugh lines crinkling at the corners beamed, her weathered hand resting gently on his shoulder. Grandma Gigi. Her kitchen had been Remy's culinary sanctuary, a place where the scent of simmering stews and freshly baked bread mingled with the warmth of her love. It was there, under her patient tutelage, that Remy first learned the language of food, the way spices could sing and ingredients could tell stories. Tonight's menu, a daring exploration of emotions on a plate, was a testament to her legacy. But as Remy contemplated the bubbling pot, a flicker of doubt crept in. He missed her guiding hand, her gentle nudge that always steered him in the right direction. As Esme placed her order, the server leaned in and whispered, "Be prepared for an adventure, ma chérie. Chef Remy's cooking today is said to be especially mood-inducing." With a nod and a wink, she disappeared into the crowd. Esme took a sip of wine and wondered what awaited her. Little did she know that Remy's emotional roller coaster of a day was about to collide with her own, and the resulting dish would be an experience unlike any other. Remy glanced at the clock again, his heart pounding. He knew he had to make a decision soon. He opened a small wooden box, revealing a vial of a bright red liquid. The label read, "Love's fiery passion." His hands trembled as he reached for it. He had never used this particular ingredient before, not in any of his dishes. But today, he felt compelled to add it. He hesitated, then slowly unscrewed the cap and poured a few drops into the stew. The liquid sizzled and bubbled, releasing a sweet, intoxicating aroma. Grandma Gigi smiled to herself, her gaze never leaving Remy. She remembered the first time he had ever felt true love, how it had changed him, how it had made him the chef he was today. "You know, Remy," she whispered, "love isn't just something to be afraid of. It's the key to creating something truly beautiful." Her words echoed in Remy's mind as he tasted the stew, the love and fear and passion all tangled together. The server returned with Esme's stew, a steaming bowl of rich, red stew topped with a dollop of whipped cream. Esme took a tentative spoonful, savoring the complex flavors. At first, she could taste the familiarity of beef and root vegetables, but as she continued to eat, she detected hints of love and passion, of fear and longing. It was unlike anything she had ever tasted before. She set down her spoon, a smile spreading across her face. "This," she said, "is the most extraordinary meal I've ever had." Remy's heart soared at her words. He knew then that he had done the right thing, that embracing his emotions, however messy they might be, was the only way to create something truly remarkable. As Esme finished her meal and left the bistro, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just experienced something transformative, something that would stay with her forever. And as for Remy, he knew that every dish he would create from now on would carry a piece of his heart, his love, and his fears, just as Esme had carried a piece of his stew away with her. Grandma Gigi watched them, a satisfied smile on her face. She knew that the world was about to change, that Remy's cooking would touch the hearts of many more people, and that love, in all its messy glory, would be the driving force behind it. As for Esme, she found herself drawn back to the bistro again and again, always seeking out Remy's latest culinary masterpiece, always hoping to taste that same extraordinary love and passion that had first swept her away. Time passed, and the world around them seemed to change, but for Remy and Esme, nothing could ever erase the memory of that fateful day when love found its way into Remy's stew. They each went on to live extraordinary lives, their paths crossing time and again, their love for each other growing stronger with each passing year. And as they sat together in the bistro, sharing yet another amazing meal cooked with love and passion, they knew that they had found something truly special, something worth holding on to for as long as they both lived. The years rolled on, and Remy and Esme's influence grew. They opened a series of restaurants together, each one more successful than the last. Their food, inspired by the love they shared and the emotions they had once tasted in Remy's first stew, became legendary. People would travel from all over the world to dine at their establishments, to taste the love and passion that infused every bite. And as they watched their empire expand, they knew that it was all because they had been brave enough to embrace their feelings, to let love guide their every move. One day, as they sat together in their favorite booth at their flagship restaurant, Esme looked up at Remy and smiled. "Do you remember that first time?" she asked, her voice soft with nostalgia. "When you poured that love potion into your stew?" He nodded, his eyes shining with tears. "I'll never forget it," he said, taking her hand in his. "Neither will I," she replied, squeezing his hand gently. "Because it changed us, Remy. It made us who we are today." And with that, they leaned in and kissed, their love for each other as strong and powerful as the first time they had tasted it in Remy's stew all those years ago. Their love story had become legend, known far and wide as one of the most extraordinary romances of their time. People would come to their restaurants just to hear the tale of how it all began, of how Remy's love potion had transformed not only his cooking, but their entire lives. They would listen, enraptured, as the waiters would tell the story of their journey, of the highs and lows, the joys and heartaches, all of it woven together by the thread of their enduring love. As the years passed, Remy and Esme continued to grow together, their love deepening with each new experience. They opened more restaurants, expanded their empire, and traveled the world, sharing their passion for food and love with anyone who would listen. And as they did so, they never forgot the lesson they had learned all those years ago, that love, in all its messy, imperfect glory, was the key to creating something truly extraordinary. One evening, as they sat in their private quarters above the bustling restaurant, Remy looked at Esme and asked, "Do you ever wonder what it would be like to try our love potion again?" She smiled, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "Only all the time," she replied, taking his hand in hers. "But," she added with a wink, "I think we've already proven that we don't need it anymore. Our love is enough." And with that, they leaned in and kissed once more, their love as powerful and transformative as ever. As they pulled away from the kiss, Remy pulled out a small vial from his pocket. "I've been working on an updated version," he said, handing it to Esme. "I thought it was time to see if we could improve upon perfection." She took the vial, her fingers tracing the etchings on the glass. "What did you add this time?" she asked, intrigued. "A dash of passion," he replied. "A pinch of adventure, and a sprinkle of hope." She smiled, feeling the warmth of the potion seeping through her skin. "I can't wait to try it," she said, already imagining the ways it might enhance their lives together. The next morning, they gathered their staff for a special announcement. "My dear friends," Remy began, "we have some exciting news to share. Esme and I have been working on a new recipe, one that we hope will bring even more love and joy into your lives." There was a murmur of excitement throughout the room as the staff waited with bated breath. "This new dish," Remy continued, "is infused with our love, our passion, and our hopes for the future. We invite you all to join us tonight for a special tasting of our latest creation." The staff clapped and cheered, eager to sample the fruits of their labor. That night, as the guests filed into the private dining room, they could sense the anticipation in the air. The aroma of the new dish wafted through the room, tantalizing their senses. As each plate was served, Remy and Esme watched with pride as their guests sampled the dish, their expressions a mix of surprise, delight, and wonder. "What do you think?" Remy asked Esme, his heart racing in his chest. "It's perfect," she replied, tears welling up in her eyes. "Our love is truly the secret ingredient." And with that, they watched as their guests devoured the dish, the love that had gone into it spreading like wildfire throughout the room. As the night wore on, the guests shared stories of their own loves and lives, all connected by the power of Remy and Esme's love potion. They danced and laughed, their hearts full and their spirits high. And as they looked into each other's eyes, they knew that their love, like the love potion, would continue to evolve and grow with each passing day. They were living proof that love could change the world, one heart at a time. The news of Remy's Love's second course spread like wildfire. Food critics flocked to Limoud, eager to be the first to experience this new culinary masterpiece. Reservations were booked months in advance, and the once quaint bistro became a pilgrimage site for hopeless romantics and jaded gourmands alike. Esme, now Remy's wife and business partner, found herself thrust into the spotlight. Interviews with her became a staple in food magazines, her initial skepticism replaced by a passionate advocacy for Remy's emotional cuisine. She reveled in the opportunity to share their story, to inspire others to embrace vulnerability and the transformative power of love. However, fame brought its own challenges. The pressure to constantly innovate weighed heavily on Remy. He experimented with new emotions, friendship's warm embrace, and comforting nostalgia, but none achieved the same level of resonance as the original. Love's fiery passion. He began to doubt himself, the fear of failure creeping into his once uninhibited creativity. One evening, after a particularly scathing review of his latest dish, zest for adventure, Remy found himself drowning his sorrows in the kitchen. Esme, sensing his despair, joined him, her touch of familiar comfort. "Remy," she said gently, "you can't force love. It has to be genuine, a reflection of what's truly in your heart." She pointed to a simmering pot on the stove. "Remember the first night we met? You didn't know you were going to use that potion. You just cooked with your emotions on your sleeve. Remy looked at the pot, a pot of simple tomato soup, a dish he hadn't made in years. It was a dish that reminded him of his grandmother, of Sunday afternoons spent in her kitchen, filled with laughter and the aroma of simmering goodness. A sudden wave of warmth washed over him, a feeling of love and gratitude. He grabbed a ladle and tasted the soup. It wasn't a revelation, not a symphony of emotions. It was just good food, honest and comforting. A smile crept across his face. He knew what he had to do. He scrapped the reservations for the zest for adventure tasting, replacing them with a simple announcement. Back to basics. The next night, the restaurant buzzed with a different kind of anticipation. There were no theatrics, no elaborate presentations. Just Remy, cooking with the same passion and honesty he had from the beginning. He served a menu of classics, coq au vin, apple tart tatin, dishes that evoked memories of home, of family, of simple pleasures. As the diners tasted the food, a hush fell over the room. It wasn't the fiery passion they had expected, but something deeper, a quiet contentment, a sense of homecoming. Tears welled up in some eyes, smiles bloomed on others. The food wasn't about grand emotions, but about the everyday magic of love, shared meals, and cherished memories. Later, as Remy and Esme basked in the afterglow of a successful night, Remy pulled Esme close. "Thank you," he whispered, "for reminding me that the most powerful emotions are the ones closest to home." Esme smiled, her heart full. "We don't need potions, Remy," she said. "We have each other. And that's all the magic we need." From that night on, Remy continued to cook with his emotions as his guide, but with a newfound appreciation for simplicity. He understood that love wasn't just a fiery passion, but a tapestry woven with countless threads of joy, sorrow, comfort, and gratitude. And his food, reflecting this complexity, continued to touch hearts, one delicious bite at a time. As the months passed, Remy and Esme's love grew deeper, their partnership stronger. They were no longer just lovers, but confidants, collaborators, and best friends. They spent their days in the kitchen, creating magic together, and their nights sharing stories and laughter over a table laden with their culinary creations. One day, as they were preparing for a special event, Esme turned to Remy with a mischievous glint in her eye. "You know," she said, "I think it's time we took our love story to the next level." Remy raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What did you have in mind?" he asked. Esme smiled, her face flushed with excitement. "I've been thinking," she began. "How about we open up our own restaurant? A place where we can share our love of food and each other with the world?" Remy's heart soared at the idea. It was a risky endeavor, but with Esme by his side, he knew they could accomplish anything. Together, they scoured the city for the perfect location, pouring their hearts and souls into designing a space that would reflect their love and passion for cooking. They spent countless hours debating the menu, arguing over which dishes to include and which to leave behind. And as opening day drew near, they couldn't help but feel a mixture of nervous anticipation and unadulterated joy. Finally, the day arrived. The line snaked around the block, and the air was thick with the scent of Esme's simmering stews and Remy's searing meats. As they worked side by side in the kitchen, their hands moving in perfect harmony, they knew that they had made the right decision. They had taken a leap of faith, followed their hearts, and built a life together. Their first customers were a group of elderly women, who beamed with delight as they sampled the dishes that had been prepared especially for them. "Why, this reminds me of my grandmother's cooking," one of them exclaimed, her eyes shining with nostalgia. "It's like a piece of home." Remy and Esme exchanged proud smiles, feeling the weight of their responsibility to uphold the traditions of their craft. As the night wore on, the restaurant filled to capacity, and Remy and Esme found themselves working double time to keep up with the demand. They moved seamlessly between the kitchen and the dining room, making sure that every guest felt welcome, every plate was perfect, and every memory made was beautiful. In between moments of frantic activity, they would steal glances at each other, sharing silent smiles and knowing looks. They were in this together, not just as partners in business, but as partners in life. And as they looked around at the happy faces and full tables, they knew that they had created something truly special. Their success wasn't measured by the number of accolades, or the size of their bank account. It was measured by the love they felt for each other, the satisfaction they derived from their work, and the connections they made with their customers. They had found a way to share their love for food and each other with the world, and in doing so, they had found a home. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe to stay updated with our latest stories, give us a like if you want to see more, and drop a comment below to let us know your thoughts.